Welcome everybody, and thank you for joining our Matchmaker session today. My name is Juliana Weber, and I'm the coordinator for CityLAB at the City of Hamilton. These events are where we learn about projects that have been submitted by city staff, and we work with faculty members to find good partnerships with students, faculty, and staff to tackle the projects. Today we are joined by Michael Marini, the marketing coordinator from Economic Development at the City of Hamilton. And he will be telling us about the creation of a BIPOC Entrepreneurship program in Hamilton and examining how we can cultivate a new generation of BIPOC entrepreneurs in our city. So Michael, thank you for joining us today and welcome. And I'd like to invite you to introduce yourself, tell us about your role at the city, what you do, and how your role impacts the City of Hamilton.
Great, so thank you very much for the invitation, and I'm happy to join you today. So I'm Michael Marini, the coordinator of marketing for the Economic Development Division with the City of Hamilton. And our mandate is to raise the profile of the City of Hamilton to the investment community, both local and abroad, and to increase non-residential assessment and the tax base in Hamilton. And that's what we've been charged with on a daily basis. So my role in particular as the marketing coordinator is to try to paint a picture of Hamilton as a great place to invest, to act as that bridge between the investment community and our staff, and trying to get them interested and get them into our site or into our offices and speak with our dedicated staff to talk about investment ideas and entrepreneurial opportunities. So I think this project idea we have today for CityLAB will certainly help to advance those goals.
That's great. So can you help guide us through the challenge? Give us a bit of a background of how it came about, what the status of those kinds of programs are right now at the city, and yeah, so if you could just tell us a bit about the background of the project.
Sure. So I think to start, as everyone understands, COVID has really changed the way we think about how we provide government services, and certainly where there are shortcomings in our economy, not only locally, but nationally and internationally. And it became quite clear when you look at the statistics and you look at the stories coming out of COVID, there's a disproportionate effect of something like this has on marginalized communities. And it's, whether they are not able to get access to the services they need in a timely fashion, whether the marginalized communities, in a large part, are the ones working the front lines and certainly put themselves at risk during the heights of this pandemic, just because of the employment they may hold. And at the same time, it gave us an opportunity to look at what we were offering from the City of Hamilton in terms of entrepreneurship assistance. And this came through quite clear with the Mayor's Task Force on Economic Recovery, is that we need to work in collaboration with marginalized communities to equal the playing field, and to make sure that when we come out of this pandemic and we start to move toward recovery now, we want to ensure that this recovery is as equitable as possible, and that everyone in our society, and certainly in Hamilton, are benefiting from the services and have equal opportunity to access the assistance they need to be entrepreneurs or to invest. And so the idea here with this particular program that we have this idea for, it was quite clear to us that members of the BIPOC communities, there wasn't programming in place specifically for this cohort. And the reason being is we are government, and we have to strive as much as possible to be equitable in the services we provide. So we throw open our programs to everyone. Everyone is included, no matter your station in life, no matter what community you associate with. If you want to be a part of our programs, you're certainly welcome to do that. But going over the Mayor's Task Force, some of those shortcomings were highlighted as well. We're in the process of establishing the next iteration of the City of Hamilton's Economic Development Action Strategy, which is the 5-year blueprint of how we're going to grow our economy. And from there, certainly it was highlighted to us in our one-on-one meetings or focus groups with members from the BIPOC communities that they're not aware of the services we provide in the city of Hamilton from an investment standpoint or an entrepreneurial standpoint. They don't know how to access the services. They didn't know, many of these services existed. And so, that was made quite clear to us. And if we are to be a good government and remain responsive and ensure that everyone's getting ahead together, then we need to alter our service and our offerings. And so that's what this program is about today.
Wow. Well, I think you've identified a lot of barriers that they are experiencing. And I think the other question is even finding out the additional barriers that aren't maybe necessarily quite visible to people who are not in the BIPOC community. And another aspect here is how Hamilton has changed over the last several years, 20, 30 years, and how the makeup of our community has really become a diverse community, and reaching all those different pockets and making sure that those people are reflected in our small businesses and in our city. And so that seems like a really a well thought out program for the city to have, and it seems like yeah, we should definitely invest in that. I wanted to ask you, what existing programs do you guys see in other communities that you're inspired by? Have you researched? Are there other communities that are doing that have strong entrepreneur programs for BIPOC communities that you guys are kind of using as inspiration or a model or anything like that?
Yeah, when you look south of the border, you look at the United States and the history of race there. There's a they're well cognizant of what they need to do to equal the playing field. So there's a number of small business opportunities and programs for the African American community, and certainly through this project, I'm sure we can look at best practices from the United States on how they engage BIPOC communities. In particular, we want to look at how they engage the African American community. From a Canadian standpoint, there are a number of entrepreneurial programs for Indigenous communities, and certainly a lot of that comes through the federal government in association with the provinces. So we want to, as part of this research of this project, we want to understand what are the full scope of opportunities that the feds and the province are offering, and then trying to see, okay, if they're offering it at this level, where's the gap when it comes to municipal services? And I think that's critically important. And I want to go back to very quickly to the point you made about Hamilton, becoming much more ethnically diversified, having a lot of communities rise up and be part of a mosaic here. And that's a wonderful thing for Hamilton, because I can tell you from an economic development standpoint, you want diverse communities, you want welcoming communities, because no longer is it just about, do you have available land, or do you have what are your tax rates, or what are your utility rates, or do you have a labor force? It's about quality of life now for a lot of companies, and they want to ensure that all the financials are always the most important. How much is it going to cost me to do business in your city? But what type of city is going to be the best for the employees, and after 5 and on the weekends, and how inclusive are you? And if you look at the urban academic Richard Florida, he says there's 3 things you need for a creative class to rise up in your city. You need tech, you need talent, and you need tolerance. And that part, the tolerance, is extremely, extremely important from an economic standpoint, because now we're seeing the large movement of employment. People don't necessarily have to be in the big city to, do their job. COVID's shown us that technology can still connect us, but we don't have to be, clumped together in a downtown Toronto. So what you want to do is you want to start establishing your city as tolerant and in that tolerance, you want to show that that's led to economic progress. And so that's why this project in particular if you just look at it from an economic standpoint, it's critically important because it's going to set a foundation for Hamilton, the image of Hamilton as a tolerant, welcoming city. And you do that, and you start to gain the interest of those 21st century type of investments.
Well, that's a really good point. It's multi-layered and it's reciprocal. You have those vibrant, diverse communities, and it's a place where people want to set up and invest their companies. That's an interesting perspective. So I'm wondering, for entrepreneurs that have already started, for people who have already started their businesses, is there a level of support that will be available through a program? Have you given thought to the criteria for people who have already started to invest, maybe are trying to take that big leap to the next level?
So right now, yes and no when it comes to this project. So this project, what we're hoping to achieve from the get-go is to get a good base of research to tell us how best to offer programming to the BIPOC communities. So we don't have that information right now. And that's what we're hoping is step one of this project is, okay, give us the baseline information so we can start developing programming. But in terms of the startup community, the scale-up community, entrepreneurship communities that are happening in Hamilton, we have a plethora of supports for individuals who want to take that path. We have strong partnerships with our community partners. So whether that's through Mac, Mohawk, Redeemer, Innovation Factory, the chambers of commerce, our business improvement areas, programs like the YWCA, female employment programs. So we're using a community approach to entrepreneurship. And so from the city standpoint, from our Hamilton Business Center, which was once known as the Small Business Enterprise Center, we have a number of programs where we partner with the provincial governments, and we offer a suite of programs and services for entrepreneurs, from mentorship opportunities, summer employment programs for students. We have Digital Main Street, which helps those who are not on the internet right now with their product offerings. It gives a grant and mentorship opportunities to digitize their offerings. So we've got a lot going on. What we're missing now, and that's why this project is so critically important to our office and in fact to the corporation, is we need to start identifying where the gaps are, and this is a really big gap for us. And so that research done that truly shows us, how much we have to keep moving forward and where we have to address these needs. It's going to make for stronger programming for Hamilton's entrepreneurship community.
Wow. And it sounds like there's an incredible amount of resources out there available for people, but maybe one of the big barriers is an information gap. People don't know about it, and making sure that we're getting that information into the right hands. So looking at the students and what students can bring to you, if you could maybe dig into a little bit more about what your ideal outcome is, or your key objectives would be for student research, student report, investigating what already is existing in the community and the work that some of our community partners are already doing. If you could elaborate a little bit on that.
Yeah, so I think certainly appreciate that this is not a project in perpetuity, that it has a definite timeline to it, and we only have so much that we can utilize in terms of resources from the students. So we really have to scope out very clearly what we require. But I really think it comes down to, at the beginning here, it's doing that research. And the students would be critically important in terms of talking to members from the BIPOC community and seeing what programs they're aware of, like measuring the awareness level, looking at a cursory scan of what programs are out there and what's available to the BIPOC community. And then working with community partners who are already doing great work. So there's an organization called Black-Owned Hamilton, and it's a relatively new startup organization, but their mandate is try to be a hub for Black entrepreneurs for the resources they need to run their businesses efficiently. So they're looking to start up an organization here that provides mentorship and programming and Hopefully they can get federal and provincial and private sector assistance in terms of funding some of these ventures in the Black entrepreneurial community. But they had a little bit of funding recently for a very high level study of the state of Black entrepreneurship and Black business in the Hamilton, Halton, and Niagara areas. And so there's some baseline information there. I think that because they're a startup, they didn't have a large amount of resources to really go out to cast a really wide net in terms of gleaning information. And this is where this project would be important, is we would have the resources to kind of expand on their work and try to get some even bigger numbers to really understand what the state of the BIPOC entrepreneurship is in Hamilton.
Wow. Yeah, and maybe help them out as well with some manpower and some digging into that research too.
Absolutely.
Do you have any I guess maybe we can wrap it up soon and move on to questions with the faculty. Do you have any other things that you want to add or any last thoughts?
Yeah, I think that I think it's a really important project because, like I said earlier, government should not remain static. It shouldn't say these are the services we offer, and it'll be like this forever. I think certainly the municipal side of government, it's the one closest to the people. We offer the services that affect your life the most on a daily basis. And so a program like this really shows us that here's an opportunity for us not only to expand our product offerings from a municipal service standpoint, but also it's a great way to see impactful change on a daily basis and right in our own city. We're not relying here on the federal government to take months to make a decision of whether they want to help us, and then waiting to see what the results are of that. Here, it can be quite nimble and community-based. And I think we have an opportunity to say, look, if we're going to move our economy forward, we're going to do it together. And we're going to come up with these solutions together. And I think that's the one thing that really excites me about this project.
That's great. And I mean, in Hamilton, it's true, Hamilton is special. There is a real appetite for change, and there's people who are motivated for progress, and that's what helps continue our community. And I can just see this being such a great way for people to kind of funnel that energy and
absolutely
continue to diversify our community. Okay, well, I will say thank you for joining today to viewers online. You can see other Matchmaker events linked below, and also more are to come in the following weeks as we explore more projects with CityLAB Hamilton. So thank you.